We're going to be talking about promotions today.
But let's talk about using it for lead gen. This is where I use it for brute force.
That way I'm really just maximizing and telling Google, I really want you to go after these churns aggressively.
You're going to be like, that is ridiculous that you do that. But I'm going to tell you something. It works. And I'm here to get results, not to do everything by the clean book.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of PPC Unfiltered. My name is Cory Lindholm, and I'm joined by my awesome co-host, Michael Nadalin. Michael, how are you, sir?
Mate, I'm good. Look at us. The last week of December, feeling the good vibes. You've moved to South America. You're glowing, you're radiant. Feel like life's going quite well.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm back down here in Colombia. I'll be bouncing around a little bit, but I love it down here. Usually spend a little bit of time here every year. Very happy to be back. So yeah, thank you for calling that out. And you just moved to a new place, right?
Background.
No, we're broken clock. Yeah, we're upgrading, ladies and gentlemen. We're classing up.
Oh wait, we didn't get that blur feature that you wanted, so people are going to look at neutral bullet in the background.
It is beautiful.
Mate, this is unfiltered. This is unfiltered. It's 8 a.m. for me right now. I'm tired. Well, I've got bags under my eyes. Cory's in South America with stuff behind him. This is real stuff. This is real life.
It's reality, folks.
Answer your question. Yes, I've moved into a new place. I'm by the beach in Melbourne, which has been outstanding. Running every morning on the beach, going for a swim every day, well, actually twice a day. Feeling good. Wow. And it's coming into Christmas, so life's really good.
Good for you. So you're not packing on the pounds, you're taking the pounds off.
Every day, mate. Every day. Shaving. Shaving them pounds off.
Well, speaking of shaving, great transition. We're going to be talking about promotions today. And so shaving, price cuts on your products, on your services. Now with lead gen, Michael, this is a little bit different, right? Because you're going to run promotions. It's not going to be the same, like 30% off maybe, but maybe you're doing like buy one, get one free service, or you're doing add-on services, things like that, right? But not really the same thing.
It's interesting we talk about this because whilst we still run a lot of e-commerce clients, it's mainly lead generation. And in terms of promotions, I've got some more guerrilla marketing tactics, but we can talk about it in a second. You're going to be like, that is ridiculous that you do that. But I'm going to tell you something. It works. And I'm here to get results, not to do everything by the clean book.
One of the biggest things that I do when I need to run a promotion through Google Ads. So there are going to be some dependencies as always, but to keep it really simple, for me, my sort of checklist, and I'm curious if you've got anything to add to this or things you wouldn't do or wouldn't recommend, but obviously the big ones are going to be like the obvious, updating some ad copy, maybe putting in ad groups that are specific for promotions and sales if we don't have those running year round. So I might create an ad group just for like XYZ product, Black Friday, XYZ product, Cyber Monday, something like that. So that way I'm really just maximizing and telling Google, I really want you to go after these churns aggressively. Like I might even, for some businesses that are really higher volume, create an entire campaign so they have like max conversions or manual CPC. So I'm just really trying to flood the auctions with my ads as much as possible because we know our profits are going to be so high during that time, even with the promotions. So ad groups that are specific for promotions could be within an existing campaign, probably more often than not, that are just going to be filled with keywords and ads that are very, very promotional based. And maybe if we have the site that allows for different site links by different promotion, I can include very specific site links as well.
When it comes to promotions, we usually think of things like, how do we implement it? Is it a campaign or ad group or keyword level, or is it using extensions or using site links, for example, or even to the point where you use the promotion codes in the shopping merchant center? So our approach is just whatever's required for the client. It could be, if it's a very specific campaign and there's a dedicated budget, I'd be putting it into its own campaign. That way we can manage the budget appropriately, ensure that the budget isn't being cannibalized by other keywords or other products or other things. Just knowing that this is, even though you may be losing all that learning data from previous times, it's better to have more control over budgets and budget allocation and delivery than the algorithm data. And so I feel like that's where a lot of people do get lost when they're like, yeah, but what about all the past data? And it's like, I get that. But if you can't control the budgets, how how aggressive you're going after it, even just reporting back on the results, then what was the point? Like they've got all this data that it's utilizing, but you actually have no control. So it's actually not worth it. So that's why I usually, in some cases, would go for a new campaign approach for specific products. And I'm more on the side of creating separated campaigns rather than inbuilt. If it's, it's running search ads, I'd run its own search ads, put labels on them. So then I've still got the original ads maybe paused and then got the new ads that are temporarily running, put a label on it, so then I can just easily turn them on and off.
Yeah. Automation, ladies and gentlemen. Use automated rules for your promotional ads because a lot of people forget that. And then they're like waking up at 1 a.m. They're like, okay, now I got to pause all my ads. Don't do that. Just set up an automated rule. It's super easy. Highlight the ads that are promotions, or like Michael's doing, use a label. Set up an automated rule that says, if the label contains this, pause at this date and this time, run it once, you're good to go. Yep.
A lot of, I was experiencing this with Jack yesterday with one of our clients who's more of an agency partner. There was something that came up. The client was asking something and he was just getting a bit like, this is going to take ages. And I just brought it back to the simple things where we just did like a Google sheet, broke down the data. And when it comes to promotions or anything in advertising, you can either make it really hard and complex or really simple and easy. And this is what like experience gives you. It's about not that it's one or the other. It's about making one turn into the other. You can really make complicated and hard things very simple and easy when you've got the right system and strategy. So that's why, like I said, I'd put it into its new campaign or its own campaign, because then I know that I can see how much it's spent. I can report better. It's easier to have control, even though that I could do the hard and complicated way where it's like, yeah, but it's already in a campaign with all its data and I don't want to lose all that data. It's like,
a lot of that's held at the primary conversion pixel anyway. It has less to do with the campaign. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people still believe it's in there. And I still do, to an extent. I don't
to some degree, it's true.
Know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And, this isn't like a Tesla car when we're trying to shave off 1% and get like more efficiencies. It's like, it's just advertising, guys. Chill out. Like,
unless you're spending $1 million a month plus, then every little dollar matters. But for most accounts, yes. Like, don't trip over the.
But if you're needing to report on it as well, you'd probably want to have more granular insight. And then if you can't report on $1 million spend, what was the point? Like, they're going to want to know reporting on it. It's better to have transparent reporting that gets less results than non-transparent reporting, and you can't even prove your results.
What are the things that are most underutilized when running promotions from your experience?
2 things. 1, the promotions extension.
Yep. It seems crazy, right? Yeah.
Okay. And I'll let's go into that. So people should know in Google Ads, I'm just got the interface now. It's called Ad and Assets now. So they're not extensions. They're called assets now. There's one that would be called promotions. And then to some extent, you've actually got the price asset as well.
Yeah.
Now, e-commerce, the promotion one's going to be good. You can just go for these certain campaigns or the account wide. We've got 30% off with this code, and you can't write that much text. So you got to write things like 30% off store wide or off selected products. You can't do some.
I think you get like 25 characters or something. Yeah, it's super.
It's not that good. But then even in the price extension or the price assets, I want to make sure I'm using the right.
Just say extension.
So I don't seem too old. Is the price one as well? You can use it there. Now, that should speak for itself, and we'll open up the conversation about e-commerce. But let's talk about using it for lead gen. This is where I use it for brute force. So lead generation. You can use things like, 20% off this service. I just use it straight up for, if it's a price, I'll be like $0 for X consultation, design, whatever that thing is. Even with the promotion extension, it will be like 100% off something. Because most clients will offer something like free consultation, free design, free visit. Like they will actually offer value up front. So rather than going like 20% off the final service, I'll do 100% off something else or 100% off brochure. Now, I know it seems so simple, but it works because people only see numbers. Like when they're scrolling through so much text, things that stand out are either symbols or numbers. So if I see 100% off, I'm going to look on that. I'm just here to get the click. If I know it's a high intent search, I want to get a click. So that's my guerrilla marketing approach, which is I just want to get that click, not at any cost, literally a dollar cost, but at any focus cost if I know it's a good search. So price extension showing $0 for like different things, and then using the promotion extension for 100% off.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that, mate?
It's a great little hack. Yeah.
Do you do that, or is that just me just being...
Yeah, no, I definitely do it too. Yeah, I saw that in an article a few years ago, and I was like, yeah, it makes simple sense. It's like, as long as it doesn't get disapproved, and I haven't run into that. So good to go.
I've always tried to create the simplest, not clickbaity ads, but ads that really have that stand out. And not that CTRs are that important, but they are important. It's a good forward indicator of like that your ads are standing out to a high intent audience.
Great.
So I'm always looking for with ads and assets, not extensions, that I'm using just things to really suck people in.
Well, and that hones in on a best practice with ad copy is don't just focus on what we've done historically. While that is important to look at what has done well, it's tough to see nowadays with being limited just to impressions or whatever in terms of your ad copy. But look at what your competition is doing, right? What are they doing? If everyone's using the word free and you're using $0, it might not seem like a big difference, but you're going to stand out from competition. So it's a really important principle.
I'll ask you a question there. So in terms of ad copy, when you do it for clients, when doing a promotional message, would you write a separate copy and then turn on and off, or would you be editing an existing ad copy?
I would rather edit an existing one as long as it's not a PMAX asset. That would be different. That would be the exception. Mostly because every time I'm going to go into an RSA, a responsive search ad, it's going to recommend certain headlines be swapped out anyway, depending on what schedule I rotated those out. So I'm going to take that opportunity to test some promotional highlights, if you will, or lower prices, that kind of thing. Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, just because I usually write separate ads. If it's purely for a promotional or it's a end of financial year, then for lead generation or there's some promotion, I'd usually have it as a separate ad, just for ease, because it's working with large clients, usually consulting when it's this, there's usually mistakes people make. And it's usually that if they do your approach, which you've got a very good attention to detail, so it's probably fine for you. But most businesses, you'll look at their ads and there's old ad copy in it. It must be one ad out of 100 that they thought they bulk changed, that there's this one bit. And then if it's for like a home loan company where the interest rate is this, like they can get a lot of trouble. If it's for finance, insurance, like anything, like there's so many industries that if the copy is not turned off correctly, there are going to be repercussions, especially if there's promotional messages and they're in the financial space or any sort of space where people will keep them liable. And that's why, coming back to just like the simple and easy, whilst your approach definitely for you works because you've got attention detail, most people should just create a separate ad, put a label on it, and just go, turn off all these ads, turn these evergreen ones back on as well.
I saw one the other, it was like a couple of weeks ago, I should say, that was like, best XYZ 2021. And I was like, for you watching in the future, it's 2023, end of 2023. So,
wow.
I would just to clarify that, I think I understand your question better now. If it's an existing promotional ad that I want to we've dropped the price more, I'll update the existing one. If it's an evergreen ad that doesn't have any promotions, I would rather create a new ad that just focuses on promotional copy. That way the descriptions, the headlines is all in sync. You might also be going to a landing page that has promotional copy on it. So just to clarify, if it's an evergreen, I probably am not going to go and put promotional copy in there. I would rather not interfere with that. Plus, when I look at longer date ranges, I'm going to have to remember or check my notes to say the ad performance fluctuated because of promotion or because I changed a couple of headlines, and that's going to be kind of complicating the analysis process. I'd rather have a separate ad, or we talked about before, a separate ad group completely for those types of keywords. So
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Oh, I was going to say, I should probably elaborate on the PMAX thing that I mentioned. People are going to be, what about the PMAX thing? So the reason I say I don't like updating the PMAX copy for promotions, because PMAX, especially if you're using it, it's not feed only, it's not mostly shopping or all shopping, whatever you want to call it. If you're actually writing copy, putting imagery, videos, PMAX is pretty slow to adjust to the changes that you make. The last thing I'd want is to like put a promotional headline in there and then I hope that within the 7 days that we're running the promotion or whenever I change the thing, that it's going to be able to catch up to that and promote that headline more often. So for me personally, I don't really want to interfere with that really slow, I always use the analogy of like, it's like a giant ship, PMAX campaigns. If you're going to try to steer it in a different direction, expect you're going to need patience. It's going to take a long time. It's not like a speedboat that can just move left and right when you update the copy. So I don't want to do that there. I would rather use extensions like the promotion extension. I'd rather use Google Immersion Center promotions. I'd rather utilize search and display campaigns, discovery campaigns to complement that without directly updating the PMAX copy. So that's just a quick reason as to why.
Within the PMAX framework, you can either, which you're not suggesting, you can take your current campaign with your current asset groups and then edit that. Or number two is you duplicate those and then you update the cred. You don't have to duplicate, you create new ones, but then you've got maybe the same audience signals there. So that's either two. Or number three is you create a new campaign similar to what I was saying before with budget. What do you prefer to do? Would you prefer to create new asset groups within the existing campaign and run it from an existing campaign, just either running the original asset groups as well, complementary, or would you turn that off, or would you run in a separate campaign? What do you tend to do?
That's going to be
case by case, but what do you do in terms of like bigger clients? May not even be like for like Black Friday, because that's such a cliche time, but in general for clients who are just running, hey, we've got this promotion for I don't know, Boxing Day, or we've just got this one for end of season.
Yep. I think this is going to be one of those answers that I would test it, especially if it's the case where that PMAX campaign, where whatever products are in that PMAX campaign that's going on promotion, if that has had really inconsistent performance, or it's really touchy, or it's like, we have to keep it at a conservative TROAS or budget because otherwise it goes just off the wire in terms of profitability, I'm going to be less likely to want to mess with that campaign. I would probably rather put it in like launch a new campaign. The problem there, though, is then you have the same product showing in multiple PMAX campaigns. That can create its own issues. I would, in that kind of case, I'd probably not mess with the PMAX campaign. I would rather utilize other settings, other things like we talked about, as opposed to directly writing copy inside the PMAX campaign. But it's all going to be situational. I think if it's not the case where it's going to be like it doesn't really have issues of profitability, we have some room to experiment. Then what I might try is a separate asset group, and then depending on the time of year, let's say it is Black Friday, or you always run a sort of an uncommon promotion. Let's say in the spring, you always run a sale for this department that you have. I might actually just build a customer list just for people that buy during that period of time and feed that in as an audience signal to that new asset group and just write promotional copy for that promotion inside of the campaign. So you can kind of get sneaky, but you need a very large customer list in order for that to even be worthwhile. So.
Yeah, this is one of those things that there's no perfect checklist on like implementing it. It is really, there's a broad spectrum. Like there's not everything, but there's kind of like a few different ways. That's what I was asking you. Is it this one or this one or this one? Because it is very based on the client's data, their past performance, the type of business, even just the outcome of that campaign. Sometimes like you will just run it and you realize like, look, I'm doing this because the client asked, not because this is business critical for them. So it's like, I'm not going to be willing to change something that's working really well for an evergreen just for some like promotional blip that they're just like, hey, can you just put these assets up? Rather than being like, hey, this is really, really important that we have these assets everywhere in our advertising versus just like, hey, can you just put these ads up because like we've got this promotion? Like, it's really also about the client's intensity about it as well. Next thing I want to ask you about was promotions in Merchant Center and them getting approved.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that.
What is with that? Like, I don't know if it's just like, is there something with me? Like, have I been cursed or something? Like, nearly every single time I put in a promotional code, it does not get approved. And I'd love to know what your experience is. Do you experience that a lot of the times? Do you, how do you get past it, or do you just surrender and just, because I usually just brute force it in the Google Ads account with my promotions and just kind of surrendered that the promotions in Google Merchant Center is just like, feel like it's as hard to do that as it is in Facebook to get your account back when you've been disapproved. Like for some reason,
so yeah, there's a lot of pieces to this. So I think one is account history. If you have been disapproved several times in the past, you're probably going to be more likely to run into disapprovals again. So that's going to be one. I always approach it as keeping it as dead, simple, plain, boring as possible to avoid the promotions, because a lot of times you want to schedule them ahead of time, and the last thing I'd want is it for it to be disapproved. I don't get an email about it, and then I check like 72 hours later and it's still disapproved, and now I have to go through it again. So I keep it really, really plain. And honestly, if you read through Google's documentation, they're sort of on the same boat there in terms of that recommendation. Is, don't make it super salesy. You're not putting like exclamation marks in there. Don't try to be tricky with symbols. Like, I just don't try to get tricky. And clients might see it as like, well, shouldn't we find the hacks or the creative ways around us? Like, would you rather like 1,000 of your products not show like a promotion? Like, no, like I'd rather that just show the promotion. Like, even if we're missing out on a 0.001% like incremental gain on revenue, it's not always worth that risk, especially with Google Merchant Center. It's so touchy, particularly if you're working in an industry like healthcare products, supplements, things like that. You don't want to be pushing the edges there. Not in Google Merchant Center. It's just very difficult.
That's the place. It's like, even if you're approved in the health space, just be grateful for that. Just leave it, because a lot of times, it's really fascinating just in that health space, because you could be disapproved for the most just random reason, or you could be approved when it's like, this is probably not right. So if you've got promotion extensions, you probably just want to make sure that the eye of Mordor is not focused on your account. If you just like, if it's working, let it work. But if you're just selling normal mundane stuff like shoes, shirts, tops, like, a water source or whatever it is, it's fine to go after it. But I still notice that disapprovals still happen a lot. So even keeping it boring, like 25% off, store wide or all products or certain products, still gets disapproved. Does that happen quite often for you?
No, not really. Okay. It could be past history. Some agency before you maybe was trying too many things, and now you're sort of on the blacklist and you're trying to use promotions. It could be that you're not specifying enough to what they want. When you say store wide, maybe when they look at the site, that's not like their manual process. When a person looks at your site, they're not seeing that it's applicable for store wide. I know in some cases the client will tell me one thing, like, it's site-wide, but then when I really dig in, it's on like 95% of products, but not the bundles that we rarely sell. And then Google sees that and they're like, nope, disapproved. And you don't know why. And that might be the reason. So you have to kind of just dig into it, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any more questions on that, mate. So do you have anything else you want to say on promotions? I feel like I've said all I've needed to say.
It's a lot of stuff. Definitely utilize seasonality adjustments, even if you think Google's going to do it automatically. It might be the exception, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but I don't like to leave it up to chance. I would rather just give it an expectation. Last 3 years, if I have that data, conversion rate spiked 95%. I want Google to know that ahead of time with as much time as possible so it can adjust during and post, which is even more important. So bids don't drop down and then we have to work our way up slowly. So you make sure you guys are using seasonality adjustments. Be careful with your negative keywords. I think that pre-Black Friday, Cyber Monday, maybe in October is a good time to double check your negative keyword lists that are applied to your account and to your campaigns. You might accidentally be blocking terms that you maybe a year ago thought maybe they were unprofitable, maybe they weren't as good, maybe you're accidentally blocking the term Black Friday for some reason. Or if you got really clever a couple of years ago, or a past agency was managing the account and they started putting in products you don't sell, and then you haven't checked on those lists for a while, you're now blocking showing ads or ads for search terms that include those products that are now in your inventory on your Black Friday sale. So a couple of quick things to check for before your next promotion.
Awesome. All right. That's outstanding. So shall we wrap this up?
Sounds good. So, guys, you can find us all over the web. Of course, we have our new PPC Unfiltered podcast. We're both on YouTube. I'm on YouTube under Cory Lindholm, as well as this podcast. I'm also on LinkedIn under Cory Lindholm. Michael, where can everybody find you?
LinkedIn under Michael Nadalin, marketlead.com.au, and Market Lead on YouTube, and the PPC Unfiltered podcast on Spotify and YouTube.
On Spotify and YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting fancy. All right, like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you have any topic ideas you'd like us to cover. We'd be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks, Johnny.
We'll see you guys in the next video.